All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Thumbs up if you guys can see my screen. Yay. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, hey there, lady. Thank you, SB. I love all of the thumbs. Love it, love it. Here we are on July's Money Mastermind. So, welcome, ladies. I am so glad that you're here tonight. So, this month's Money Mastermind is called Revenge Saving, and that's how to spend without stress, guilt, or chaos. And I just wanted to start by saying that this is not a session about restriction. This is not me telling you to stop enjoying your life, stop going out, stop traveling, or stop spending money on the things that matter to you. This is actually the opposite of that. This is about creating a system so that your money can support more of your life instead of constantly surprising you. So I don't want you to be stressed out. I don't want you to feel like you're behind. So by the end of tonight, I want you to have one clear next step for making your spending feel calmer and more intentional. So let's talk about what we are going to cover off tonight. There we go. Okay. So tonight we're going to focus on a very specific kind of money stress. And these are those expenses that do not happen every single month, but they still keep showing up and throwing off your monthly budget. So, you know the ones, these could be car repairs, any sort of annual fees that you have. It could be a birthday gift for a friend, a trip that you said yes to, holiday spending. I know we talked about that one back in November, home repairs, anything like that. So none of these things are necessarily shocking, but when there's no money set aside for them, then they can totally feel like a crisis. So tonight, I'm going to show you how to create a calmer system for spending, saving, and planning ahead. So in the chat, I want you to type one non-monthly expense that always seems to sneak up on you. Okay, so this is the core problem. Non-monthly expenses keep blowing up your budget. So a lot of women think, maybe they're bad at budgeting because the month may start off looking great on paper and then real life happens. But the problem isn't necessarily the budget or the monthly budget. The problem is that the budget is usually only accounting for your monthly expenses and your bills, your rent or mortgage, your utilities, your cell phone bill, groceries, insurance. Those are usually easy to remember because they happen every single month. So real life doesn't just happen every month. Real life is going to include holidays, it's going to include travel, it's going to include maintenance repairs, medical expenses, annual fees, school stuff, pet expenses. Like these are all of those kind of sneaky things that show up throughout the year. They may not show up on a monthly basis, but when they're not planned for, that's when your monthly budget completely gets ambushed. So this is going to be a big reframe for tonight. So you definitely don't need more restriction. I'm never about more restriction. You just need to have a better system in place. So a lot of people will respond to money stress by saying, like, I just need to spend less. And sometimes spending less is the solution. But usually the deeper issue is that the money, if the money doesn't have a plan, then your money's going to get spent. And when those unexpected expenses come up, there won't be a solution for it. So when there's no system, every decision is going to end up becoming an emotional decision. So every expense is going to feel like a choice between enjoying your life now and being kind of responsible for future you. And that can be exhausting. So this is really about taking the emotional chaos out of the equation and saying that I'm going to plan ahead so that I can spend on purpose in the future without guilt. So I'm going to walk you through kind of this simple framework. So there are basically three pillars to revenge saving. And the first one is stop calling your predictable expenses unexpected. The second one is fund them in advance. And the third is automate the calm. So these three steps, they're simple, but they can be really powerful because they're going to turn your spending from reactive to intentional. So the goal isn't to create any sort of complicated system that you need to obsess over. The goal is to create a system that is quietly working in the background for you so that one of these, unexpected expenses happen when life happens, then you're not scrambling. So let's start with pillar one, because this is really the mindset that is going to change everything. So this is one of my favorite money truths. We really have to stop calling these predictable expenses unexpected. Irregular expenses doesn't mean that they are unpredictable. Most of the expenses that kind of surprise us, they're not random. We know that the holidays are going to happen every single year. We know that our cars are going to need maintenance. We know we want to go on vacations. We know, our friends and family have birthdays. We know that we have Amazon, annual Amazon Prime fees that we're probably paying annually. There's going to be those home repairs. So the problem isn't that the expense exists. The problem is that more than likely you're not setting aside money for when these expenses actually happen. So once you plan for it, then it's going to stop derailing your monthly budgets. So this is why it's so powerful. You're not changing the fact that the expense is going to happen. The holidays are going to happen every single year. The car repair is going to come whether you like it or not. But you're changing how prepared you are when they do happen. And this is where so much money shame can happen. So it's not that you're bad with your money, but you're trying to fund real life without having a system designed to support real life. So I am going to share with you guys. Okay, so these are, I really wanted to share, real life examples. So these are examples of my own savings buckets. And I looked these up yesterday just to confirm. These are my exact savings buckets. So I didn't want you to feel like this was some abstract thing. I wanted you to, this to kind of be really tangible for you. So these are all categories that I plan for ahead of time. None of these are monthly expenses. Some of them are practical, like car insurance or taxes, car and home repairs, and annual fees. And then some of these are kind of more lifestyle related. Those are going to be vacations, maybe my skincare, my hair, gifts, charity, and other things like that. So your buckets that you create, they don't need to look exactly like mine, but I wanted you to kind of see what some examples look like. The point is really for you to look at your own life and ask yourself, what expenses keep showing up that you can plan for ahead of time? The magic is not in having, this perfect list. I mean, I will probably figure out a new bucket for me to save from in a couple months. There'll be something new that I'm like, oh, why aren't I really need to start saving for that every month as opposed to letting that throw off my monthly budget. So these have kind of definitely evolved over the years. The magic is really in deciding that these expenses that always come up deserve a plan before they become stressful for you. So here's a couple, let me just kind of show you how I think about it. So when I had a car, I don't have a car anymore, but when I had a car, I remember my AC broke in my car. It was a $1,500 expense. I put it on my credit card, and then a couple months later, I eventually paid that off. And I was like, I never want to get into another situation where I'm having a big car repair bill. So I created a car repair fund. And I was probably saving $100 a month to kind of fund it. And I didn't have any sort of idea yet what ceiling I wanted to reach, but I just started saving $100 a month into this car repair fund. And then 9 months later, another component of my AC died, and it was another $1,500 repair. And then I was like, well, clearly the $900 I've saved up is not enough. I need to be saving $150 a month. So I started doing that. And another 9 months later, I kid you not, another component in my AC broke. And it was another $1,500. So essentially within a year and a half, I'd spent $4,500 on car repairs. And so I decided I needed a car repair fund that I was going to max out at $2,000. That was going to be my car repair fund. And I started putting $200 a month into it. So we know car repairs are going to happen. If you have a car, you're going to have car repairs. So it's really just kind of up to you to figure out what you want those buckets of yours to look like. And sometimes you'll figure them out when you're in a crisis. Like I didn't realize I needed a car repair fund that was $2,000 until my AC went out 3 times. So just a couple examples of that. So moving on to the second pillar, now that we've kind of named the expenses, the next step is funding them in advance. So this is where revenge savings starts to feel really good because you're going to move from being reactive into preparing for everything. So instead of waiting until the expense arrives, like I was doing with my car repairs, and hoping that there was enough money left over to pay for it, now you're going to start building the money ahead of time. And that means that the expense is no longer competing with your current monthly budget. It's not going to be competing with your monthly bills, your groceries, your other savings or monthly debts that you've got. The money is already going to be waiting for the job that you assigned it to do. So let me show you this really simple formula. Okay. So this is the revenge saving formula that I use. So I want you to take the total expense and divide it by the number of months until you need the money. And that's going to give you the monthly amount that you should be saving. So for example, let's say you want to have $1,200 saved up for the holidays. And if you start now in July, then you've got about 6 months. So you've got $1,200 divided by 6 months. That means you should be saving $200 a month to fund your holiday spending. And it's going to be very different getting to November and December and thinking, oh, how am I going to come up with $1,200 versus you starting this month saving for the holidays. So, and that's why I wanted to kind of talk about this month in July. July is not too early to be thinking about your holiday spending in December. July is when smart women start planning for December. And even smarter women started in January. So just kind of think about all of these non-monthly expenses. Another expense that I have, I get my hair done every 3 months. It's not a monthly expense. It's $200 every 3 months. So every month I put aside $67. And then when it's time for me to get my hair done, the money is already there waiting for me. So the goal isn't to make your life more stressful, it's to make it less stressful. I still want you to be able to enjoy all of the expenses you have during the month, but I want you to make sure that you are setting aside little amounts of money to fund all of those other buckets and non-regular expenses that come up. So this is your revenge savings plan worksheet. I'm going to email this out to you guys. So after tonight's event, definitely check your email. I'm going to save this or send this over to you, and I'm going to explain kind of how you can utilize it. So in the first column, I want you to write down any non-monthly expense that you can think of. You can use some of mine. I'm sure you guys have some of your own. I don't currently have a pet fund. I just kind of, if there's any issues with my pets, I'll pull it out of my home repair fund. But pets could be, I know several of you have pets. So pets could be an example of a non-monthly expense that you maybe want to, obviously you're paying for pet food every month, and maybe you're paying for daycare for your doggy daycare every month, but maybe some of those unexpected vet visits. So write down in the first column what your non-monthly expenses are. Then you want to estimate the total amount that you're going to need and the deadline or the month when you're going to need that money. And then calculate how many months you've got left and divide that number by the total. So that's going to give you the monthly amount that you can then automate, which is what we're going to talk about. So I don't want you to sit here and try to solve your entire financial life tonight. I want you to pick a few non-monthly expense categories that you can start with, though. So the goal is for you to make progress, not perfection, and one planned expense that you can set up is going to be better than coming up with 10 ideas. So let's move on to pillar number 3. So this is basically where we're going to talk about how to automate all of this. So this is where your system is going to become easier to stick with because you're not relying on your memory. You're not relying on motivation or willpower every single month to plan for these things. So if you have to manually remember to move money every single time for all of these non-monthly expenses, there's a much higher chance that it will not happen. Life gets busy. You're going to forget some month to do something. You'll think that you want to do it later, but you'll forget. So when the expense shows up and the money's not there, then it's going to cause more stress. So really the goal is to automate everything because automating your savings is going to protect you from having to be perfect and remember all of that. So let's look ahead and kind of see what that's actually going to mean. So basically creating separate spending buckets, setting up automatic transfers, and reducing your decision fatigue. This is really going to let yourself spend all of the rest of your money guilt-free because you've already assigned all this other money a job to do. And this can be as simple as using a high yield savings account with named buckets. And that's what I do. So I think last month, maybe we were talking about high yield savings accounts. I personally use Ally Bank as my high yield savings account, and it lets you create up to 30 buckets. So I think I've got 12 or 13 buckets, but I can go up to 30 buckets. Ben likes to make fun of me because I have all of these buckets with all of my little, things of money. But this is what helps to keep my finances on track for me. This is what I love, having all of these buckets. And I know I've got this much in my vacation bucket. That means if I want to take a vacation, that's the amount I've got to spend. I'm not going to pull vacation money out of my car repair bucket. I'm not going to pull car repair money out of my vacation bucket. So I use my high yield savings account and I've created separate buckets, which I showed you. Those are my real buckets. Or you could set up separate savings accounts. Really the exact tool that you use matters less than the behavior of you setting up these automatic transfers. If you're really good and you want to just have one big bucket of money and you can pull all of your non-monthly expenses out of it, then that's great. I like having the separate buckets because that helps me to know if I'm saving enough for each type of expense. But some people just have one big pile of money that they do this with. I like the separate buckets. So this is what helps me feel calm with my money. I'm not, waking up every month thinking, oh, do I have enough? Can I afford this? I know I've got that Amazon Prime annual fee is due. Is that going to blow up my budget? I've already made this decision ahead of time to save for all of these non-monthly expenses. So you've already assigned the money, you've already taken care of future you and any sort of stress that would come from trying to think of, how am I going to afford that much that month. So automation is really how you solve that. And this is why I call it revenge saving because you're kind of taking that control back. It's not saving because you're scared. It's not saving because you're punishing yourself. It's not saving because you're trying to be, perfect and this responsible adult who never enjoys life. It is actually the complete opposite. It's about taking all of your power back and being able to say, I'm done being surprised by things that I could have planned for. Yes, there's always going to be kind of something that is a new unplanned expense that you weren't thinking about, but I bet you can think of multiple non-planned non-monthly expenses that you could start saving for. So I'm basically done letting those predictable expenses create stress for myself or create credit card debt for myself. And I don't want my money to control me. Instead, I want you guys to be able to build a system that's going to let you spend more and you'll be more at peace and more confident. So, what changes when you actually do this, when you're actually able to implement all of this? So, when you plan ahead, it's going to help you feel calmer. The holidays are going to feel less stressful. Vacations do not become credit card debt. Your monthly budget stops getting ambushed. Your money starts funding your life. That is the entire purpose for me setting these up is that I want my money to be there for me when I need it. And that's really important. It's not about, having all these little buckets. It's about creating more freedom for yourself. So when your money is always reacting, it makes you feel trapped. And when your money's planned, then you're able to feel like you're more in control. You've got more breathing room. You're a lot more calm. And that's really the bigger goal. It's not just, having a better budget, but it's about having a life that feels less chaotic and more intentional. So basically, your next step, I'm giving you homework, ladies. Really, I want you to pick one predictable expense that is a non-monthly expense and create a budget for it this week. You don't need to do this with 10 of your expenses. You don't have to, plan out your whole financial life. It will never be a perfect system. I just want you to pick one expense, one bucket, and one automatic transfer that you can do. Maybe you want to start that holiday fund. Maybe you want to start a car repair fund. Maybe you want to start funding your next vacation. or an annual bill that always annoys you. Like I have an annual fee on some of my credit cards, and I put aside a little bit of money every single month. So when those annual fees happen, I've got a bucket for that. So I just want you to pick the one thing that that's probably going to give you the biggest sense of relief if the money were already waiting for you. And I want you to kind of zoom out. And, this is really about the bigger picture. I hope that the worksheet is practical for you guys. The formula is very simple, but the deeper transformation is really going to be an emotional one. It is all about having less stress in your life. There are plenty other areas of our lives that can add stress. I really, really want to help you guys remove money and your finances from being one of those causes of stress. So less stress now, less debt later. I really want you to be able to create more freedom over time with your finances. I want you to be able to create more confidence with your money, more breathing room for the life that you guys actually want. And that's basically, you know, why I do what I do. And if anyone is interested in doing a absolutely free discovery call with me, please let me know. I'll put a link to the discovery calls in the email that I send you afterwards, but we'll basically jump on a call for 30 minutes and kind of review everything, see what areas that you would want to focus on. And that's basically it. So let me stop sharing here.
Val, I'm a big fan